You have good memories about the band Death. It's one band that my ex and I greatly enjoyed together. Death is one of the bands that got me into death metal as a whole, so... yes. On many, many different levels. I even did a school report on Chuck at one point, because it was one of those, like, talk about your influences and everything, and Death was one of the first bands that I came across as far as metal went. So Chuck's music was a huge influence for me as becoming, as far as me growing into a metalhead. And like I said, Leprosy was the first one. I didn't care too much for it at that time. It was the... Fuck, it was the fourth album. I can't remember the name of it. Like the fourth and fifth, the last two albums that really grabbed my interest later on. But I mean, I had mad respect for Chuck, given the whole cancer situation. And Control Denied is another awesome band with him. I wish we got more Control Denied out of before he passed away. But yeah, I am a huge... I greatly enjoyed Death. I am a big fan. I wish like hell I could have met the guy. I wish I could have interviewed him back when I was... Yeah, back when I was doing all that. Oh, he passed way before I was into any of the radio stuff. But I wish he were still alive, that, you know, maybe one of these days I could have caught a live Death performance and seen about just hanging out, doing an interview, getting to know the guy. Because the later Death, the main reason why I was so into all of that, it was very introspective. It wasn't your stereotypical death metal, gore kind of stuff. It was very... It felt far more personal, and the whole bit of jazz and progressiveness of later releases really grabbed me. Like, while I'm a huge Cannibal Corpse fan, I really enjoy some more progressive, avant-garde type things. So the later albums really piqued my interest. And unfortunately, now it's a little tarnished because of the X. I saw a band called Death Rattle, and now my curiosity is piqued. I don't know if this is the death rattle that I saw, but there was one in Russia, progressive death thrash. 2005, they released a demo, status unknown. Okay, never mind. Let me go back to the death search. I think it was page 2. Yes, this is how I find random bands. Oh, there are 3. No, 4. US. Groove, Mellow Death, Mellow Black. Okay, I'll check all those out at some point, but yeah, I do want to check the albums out. So, Death. Let's go with main. Okay, Leprosy, Spiritual Healing. That was it. And how in the hell did I forget Human? Human is my absolute favorite from them. Oh my god, I forgot all about Scream Bloody Gore. That's the album that I kept referring to as Leprosy. Yeah, Scream Bloody Gore was the very first one that I heard from them. When I was saying the first album, that's the one that I meant. I forgot all about I mixed up the names. Because I see the artwork of Scream Bloody Gore. It's got the rotting, like, zombie type things going on. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. Like, not the... Yeah, they're just sitting there, and... One guy is sitting there, look like, you know, in robes and everything, and then there's 3 nearby. But yeah, Scream Bloody Gore. That was my introduction to Death. I wasn't a huge fan of Death when I first heard that, so years later down the line. It was Death and Cannibal Corpse. Those were my introductions to death metal. And eventually I got a Dying Fetus EP, but I wasn't even into that all that much. It took a long while for me to actually get into death metal. It was something that I had to grow a taste for. For the most part, for me, it was like groove metal, melodic death metal, bands like that. I would say Machine Head, but I could not, and to this day still cannot, get into Machine Head. But like Soilwork, In Flames, Dark Tranquillity actually before either of those. It was Dark Tranquillity, then Soilwork, and then In Flames. That's kind of how I bridged the gap into death metal and started to gain an appreciation for it. And then Cannibal Corpse, Tomb of the Mutilated, Dying Fetus, but prior to all that, it was Annihilator and then King Diamond. King Diamond is what really grabbed me into the metal world. But yeah, Scream Bloody Gore, that was my introduction. Leprosy actually came much later, but it's a damn good album. Spiritual Healing, I friggin' hated that album. I don't know why. It's a good album, don't get me wrong. It's just, I don't back when I first heard it, I didn't like it. And even to this day, I'm still not a huge fan of it. But, I mean, I respect the hell out of it. It's a pretty good album. Human was the album that really drug me kicking and screaming into the world of Chuck Schuldiner and death. That was... Scream Bloody Gore was first. Human was second. And then it was Leprosy. And then Individual Thought Patterns. Symbolic, I don't think I heard until much later in life. And The Sound of Perseverance, that was the album that's like, okay, this really changes... Oh, god damn it. Really changes how I see the band Death. That was what cemented me as a fan. And it was Spiritual Healing after that, I think, if I remember right. That was like the last Death album that I heard. Symbolic and... Yeah, Human, Symbolic, and The Sound of Perseverance. Individual Thought Patterns did come later, and I really regret not hearing that sooner. And yeah, I got all the Relapse re-releases of these, because, well, I kind of had to. I wanted to hear everything that was humanly possible, and I think I had some of the demos, if I remember right. And Control Denied, I really wish there was more from Control Denied. It was shortly after I got into Death that I found out about Carcass. Hadn't heard anything by them prior to, I'd say like 2005, 2006, maybe? No, 2007. Because I started getting into metal end of 1999, started 2000, because Iron Maiden, Brave New World, that was one of the very first true metal albums that I heard. At the time, I was really just into like friggin' new metal and stuff like that. But yeah, eventually, I never heard them until... Yeah, no, around 2005, when I was doing the radio station, I happened upon the Peel Sessions or something. Hold on, let me see what the... No, I'm getting that mixed up. It was Wake Up and Smell the Carcass. The compilation from 1996. So it was around 96, yeah. I happened upon that CD, and I'm like, oh, this is actually really kick-ass. And then I dove in just to see what they were all about. And it was one hell of a ride, and I'm still a fan. The hell? I don't think I have Torn Arteries, though. I don't think I actually enjoyed that album, and I don't believe I added it. But I do, as far as I recall, I don't know, the library's up in the friggin' attic now. But I do have all their albums floating around somewhere. Swan Song was the album that that was the first one that I got to listen to, and I really dug it. One song that got stuck in my head was like a bonus song for Japan, Death Ride or Die. And that, I don't know why, it was just so weird. It was like a combination of grindcore and the melodic death metal, kind of, I guess you could say it that way, but I don't know, there was something about it that, it was so simple, so out of the range, I guess, of Swan Song, that it did lead me to check more out. Regan Putrefaction and Symphonies of Sickness, I didn't really care too much for them. I was more into the melodic stuff from them. So Necroticism. That album, that was kind of like the bridging point for me as far as, okay, I like this, and I like this, and then they grew from there with Heartwork and Swan Song. Surgical Steel is another great album from them. I freaking love it. But again, Torn Arteries, I don't know why. I can't even say I really liked Surgical Steel all that much. It was good, but it was like clearly them shaking the rust off. And Torn Arteries, I don't know. I just wasn't a huge fan. I don't know. I actually, while I love the hell out of Carcass, Impaled is like the band that I really enjoy more. I feel like the splattercore element of metal was captured far better by Impaled. Or maybe not captured, but progressed by Impaled than Carcass. And that's... Impaled was 1995. When was Carcass? I know 1986. So yeah, Impaled kind of like took the formula that Carcass set up and just, I don't know, ran with it. And I kind of preferred it a lot more. Mondo Medical was the very first Impaled album I ever heard. Oh my god, I fell in love with that album. It was so damn good. What was it? Not Necrosis, right? They were Relapse, I think, initially. Century Media was Death After Life. That was another damn good one. Mondo Medical. Was it Death Vomit? It was a label that held the rights for The Dead Shall Dead Remain. Yeah, Death Vomit, okay. And I know there was a huge thing where the label refused to give the rights for them to, for anyone to re-release The Dead Shall Dead Remain. And yes, I have a copy of that floating around up in the attic library, if it's even still good at this point. I caught so much flack. I did an article on the website over at apox.net back when I had it. I was just talking about, like, I don't understand why it's... Like, I found this in a used CD shop for $5. I don't understand why it's so hard to find it, but that was just like a off-the-cuff thing. I didn't do any research as to how difficult it was to actually find a copy of that CD for under $100, if not more. Simply because Death Vomit... Necropolis Records, I think that was one of the side labels from Necropolis. They refused to give up the rights to the album, and I don't know if they ever did. So they just re-recorded the damn thing at some point. But yeah, Mondo Medical, I friggin' love it, and I actually mixed it up. Mondo Medical, that wasn't my first introduction. Hold on. Death After Life was one of the very first promos I got back when I was running a review website prior to going off to college for broadcast communications and journalism. And that was back in 2005. So I was like just out of high school, and I was just getting into the whole journalism type thing. And I got to talk to Sean and Rawl. They were awesome guys. And I do believe I have Sean on my Facebook, and I haven't talked to the guy. And just one of those, like, I'm a fan, I don't really want to bother you kind of things. Death After Life was fantastic, in my opinion. It was an absolutely banger album. Not The Last Gasp. The Operating Theater, I think that was like the first track on it, or the second. No, I'm sorry, the fourth one, Theater of Operations. That, I don't know why, but that was kind of like the album that clenched it for me. I don't have a lot of Impaled stuff. The Dead Shall Dead Remain, I have the initial one. Mondo Medical is floating around there somewhere as well. I lost my copy of Death After Life and The Last Gasp. And same thing there. They cost so damn much. Unless that changed, it costs so much to just replace anything from Impaled. It's insane. And then, yeah, The Dead Still Dead Remain. I don't know why. It was good, but it wasn't as good. Like, it was too polished, if that makes any sense. Like, I preferred the rougher analog sound than the more polished modern sound. Yeah, Chuck himself directly, and the band, but more so Chuck, the later releases of Death, greatly, like, changed my outlook on what it meant as far as songwriting goes. That, Annihilator, Criteria for a Black Widow. Criteria was the album that literally brought me into the metal world. The bonus track by track on the, I think it's the US edition, with Jeff kind of breaking down each track and realizing these are not just dark tracks to be dark. There's actually meaning to this album. And I was able to relate some of them, even at such a young teenage age. And yeah, that's kind of like, okay, there's more to this than I initially thought. Because, I mean, you know, Slipknot, it's just like, yeah, go fuck yourself, fuck you, and all that. But then I dive into that world, and it's like, wow, there's actually a lot more to this than I thought. Fucking Creator, for example. I mean, a lot of those themes, I look back and I'm like, why did I think this was just like anger? But I'm talking like, again, 99, 2000s era me. So I would have been some 14, 15 around there. So I was stupid and still getting into metal and didn't realize just how diverse it was, and like the lyrical themes and everything, the meanings behind everything. And that's what really has kept me in metal. And yeah, Dying Fetus, that was the band that I wanted to look up the EP. I haven't really gotten any of Dying Fetus's new stuff. Not that it's bad, but with the one member departing from the group, it doesn't really feel the same anymore. I kind of like that mix of hardcore and death metal. And now it's kind of more death metal than hardcore, and I feel like it's just not the same. Grotesque Impalement, that's it. I have that floating around somewhere. That was such a mindfuck for me. When I just picked it up randomly at the local CD store, and it was only like a couple of bucks. And I'm thinking, okay, cool, this is very violent looking artwork. I friggin' really like that. Dying Fetus, ooh, that sounds brutal. I picked it up, Grotesque Impalement was fantastic, and then after that, they covered Baphomet. Next Step Up, Then there was the song Tearing Inside the Womb. I don't really remember that. Final Scream, Prelude to Evil, Davy's Nightmare. I listened to that and I'm like, what in the hell is this? It set up such an interesting introduction to a song. And then Hail Mighty North, Forest Trolls of Satan, Anoclitoris 666, Opus 2. Like, what in the hell is this? I'm listening to it like, what the hell? It's like glam rock with a metal tinge? I had no idea what to make of it. And again, this is back when I was first discovering metal. So the concept of it being kind of a joke track just to have fun, I had no idea what I was listening to. And unfortunately, due to this being my introduction to Dying Fetus, I held off for the longest time because I had no idea what the hell I listened to. But then I happened to catch them live, opening, I think, for Cannibal Corpse. And I think they were promoting Destroy the Opposition. I think. Yeah, Stop at Nothing came out in 2003. So they were pushing Destroy the Opposition. I saw them live, I'm like, okay, this should be good. And that's where I kind of dove into things. I did pick that album up, and it was the one before it. Hold on. It was Destroy the Opposition and Killing on Adrenaline I eventually picked up. I have Purification Through Violence somewhere. It's a damn good album, but you can kind of see like the foundation of what they were trying to do. Stop at Nothing was back when I was metal director and radio DJ. And we played a lot of that because we somehow got a copy of it. And War of Attrition blew up the friggin' charts. It was a fantastic album. And was one where it's like, okay, this is Dying Fetus. This is the band that I'm really into and really want to friggin' listen to and get behind. Descend into Depravity, fucking hard album. Awesome release. Reign Supreme, same, but I don't think I ever added those two into the collection. Wrong One to Fuck With, I do believe I ordered. It's a damn good album. I reviewed it on the site. But that, I think, is where things started changing up. Like, it was good for a death metal album, but it wasn't as much Dying Fetus as I fell in love with, if you will. And then Make Them Beg for Death, I actually did not hear that album. And I guess maybe I should have, like a 94% rating on friggin' Archives. I don't know, man. But yeah, those are like some of the death metal pillars for me and how I got into my progression into enjoying death metal. And I mentioned Cannibal Corpse. Hold on, was it Tomb of the Mutilated? No, it wasn't Tomb of the Mutilated. Cannibal Corpse. Butchered at Birth, I think? I know the album artwork in the back of my head. It wasn't Eaten Back to Life. Yeah, that was it. Butchered at Birth. When I first heard it, I'm just, what is this shit? It sounds like Cookie Monster burping. I genuinely didn't like it. It was literally the very first death metal album, if I remember correctly. And I listened to like 2 songs. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I put it aside. I didn't like it. And then, like, that was when I was really starting to get into nu metal. And when did that come out? That came out 91? No. Yeah, no, 91. Yeah, that is right. Because at that time, I was getting into nu metal in general. Head PE, Slipknot, Mudvayne, bands like that. So at that time, that was like a lighter groove metal almost that I was really into. Fear Factory. And I just happened upon Butchered at Birth at a used CD shop. And yeah, I just really didn't like it all that much. I love the artwork. But I listened to that, and then eventually that Dying Fetus Grotesque Impalement EP. But yeah, Butchered at Birth, Meat Hook Sodomy, I got through that song, but it was like it was almost 6 minutes, 5 minutes 49. And halfway through, I'm just like, what is this? I could not get into it. Now I go back to it, and I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with me? This album is amazing. Not their best, but damn, it was good. What the hell? Living Dissection, great song. Title track was great, and Innards Decay. They were like 3 of my favorites, going back to that album. I never picked up Chaos Horrific or Violence Unimagined. Once Red Before Black 2. Skeletal Domain is where I left off. Because by the time Red Before Black came out, they started using a metronome thing for the recording. At least that's my understanding. And you can kind of tell, because one thing I really liked about Cannibal Corpse was the music was kind of raw despite the production value. It was still powerful and everything, but you could still pick up some minute screw-ups. It felt real. Now everything is so tightly performed, it just doesn't seem as raw to me. So yeah, the last few albums, I've just not really been a huge fan of them. They're good albums, but for me, they just don't hit the same way.